Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again.
It's time for the J. Craig 5, maybe 10-minute movie review. Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of the J. Craig 5-minute movie review. I am Jay of the J. Craig podcast. If you haven't done so already, click on the button on the bottom right of your screen, that red subscribe button, and get all our movie review releases, as well as the J. Craig podcast episodes that we release twice a month. So folks, I'm here to talk about Annihilation again. Now, I did a initial reaction review when I first saw the movie. Now I want to do a little bit more of a spoiler review because I do acknowledge that my first review, as being more first initial reaction, didn't give away a lot of the details of the story intentionally. Also, I didn't really know how to explain what I was thinking about this movie and what I was taking from it. So I needed more time to process it. So I want to use this one as more of a spoiler review so we can talk about a little bit more about the movie. So the movie is about an organism that's growing on Earth at a rate that's starting to alarm mankind. And so they've been trying to test it and try to figure out what it is. They can't get any information from it. So they've been sending in teams. Now, the teams are trained and they're armed and they're not coming out. And anything goes in does not come out. They send another team. Nothing comes out until something finally does. And again, this is spoiler review territory, folks. So Oscar Isaac's character comes out, who is tied to Natalie Portman's character. But all of a sudden, almost instantly, we realize that it might not be Oscar Isaac anymore. So it has hints of Invasion of the Body Snatchers at first. So now the story really takes off, and Natalie Portman gets assigned or volunteers to go with a group of female scientists to go in and see what's going on. To find out what happened to the team and what's really going on with Oscar Isaac's character. And then they also want to find out what's going on inside this environment, this organism, so they can stop it from growing because they feel that it's going to take over the world eventually. It's growing at such a rate. So now once you get into this shimmer, that's like your first act break, and you get into this world of this organism, and that's where things start to get real crazy. And it is a psychedelic ride at points where it's just mesmerizing to look at. But one thing about this story that was fascinating to me was the morphing of a lot of different elements in this story, whether it is morphing of the genres that's happening. So you have the science fiction horror, the suspense, the thriller. You have all these different little things that are blending together, morphing. And then in the world that they're in now, it's Earth that's morphing on top of each other, on top of itself. So you have organisms that are blending together, whether it's plant species that don't belong with each other and they're blending in together and morphing. You have animal species that are breeding DNA somehow. And it's creating this new world. And the morphing idea is really cool throughout the movie, and that's something that was mesmerizing to me, and then something that you can think about more and more and more. But I think when you really dig into this movie and why they're going inside this world to find out what's going on, it becomes apparent that they're talking about destruction. Obviously, the title is Annihilation, and that is a critical part of this movie, is destruction. They make a very apparent claim that mankind is predisposed to create or to destroy itself. And sometimes they need a little help, and sometimes we're going to do it on our own. And so every character in this movie goes through this kind of destruction in a way. And ultimately, when you look at this movie, while it's this morphing of everything going on, it's the morphing of oneself and the change that happens, and if we're willing to accept that. And the morphing of this world that's taking over and maybe creating something better than what we have now. But are we willing to accept that change? Are we willing to accept the change that's happening inside of us when we make new discoveries of ourselves? So there's character moments with Natalie Portman where we find out her true nature, and we find out why she's doing what she's doing, and we find out that there's guilt and there's remorse in some of her actions previously that led her down this path and led her to make these decisions to risk her life to find out what happened to her husband. And when you find out what her true purpose is, it's an enlightening moment for a character, and you're like, wow, she's got some depth. And it's fascinating that she shows so much regret and remorse and guilt from her previous actions. But again, it's about morphing into something else, and so that made her into somebody different, and it morphed her relationship into something different, whether we destroy our relationships, ourselves, or the world. That's what this movie is about. But it goes further than that in the fact of it, with destruction comes rebirth. And I think another important aspect of this movie is rebirth and the rising from the ashes of something that is now gone. And from something that's disappeared, something's going to replace it. And that's what this movie's about. And I really love that theme. And it's something that makes me want to talk about this movie over and over again with people, just because I want to see what they got out of it and what that really means to them when they talk about rebirth and, destroying something to bring something new, and whether we're willing to accept those changes. So there's a lot of really cool high concepts in this movie, and it's something that I would love to hear what you have to say. So at the bottom here, give me your comments on what you thought this movie's about. If you thought I'm hitting it, or if I'm missing a mark, let me know what you think about it. Because again, as a sci-fi movie, as a good sci-fi movie, it requires some conversation. So I hope you enjoyed this spoiler review, if you will, version of Annihilation on the J. Craig 5-Minute Movie Review. We'll see you next time.